Hi grade 12s and welcome. In this video we will be solving the November 2023 IEB Mathematics Paper 1. So it's your final exam paper, right? So let's have a look at question 1. Let's get straight into the problem, and I have my calculator opened as well. Right, so we want to solve the first question, and it says leave your answer in logarithmic form. We want to solve this equation, so we can solve for x. We can say x equals log 2 base 3. So the base of the exponential remains the same as the base of the log. Solving the next question, it was just 1 mark, so that was straightforward. Solving the next question, we square both sides, but make sure you take the 1 over and use the restriction. So we have x plus 7 is equal to x plus 1. So what we can do is now we square both sides. Now before we square, let's write down the restriction. We know the square root of anything has to be positive. So remember, x plus 1 has to be greater than equal to 0. So x has to be greater than equal to negative 1. So we can only take answers which is greater than equal to negative 1. Now if I square both sides, we have x plus 7 squaring a square root, and this is x squared. Square the x, then square the 1 at the end, and the middle term is the product of the two terms times 2, so plus 2x. This only works for a binomial. Now if we solve this equation, we got x squared, take the x over, we have plus x, and 1 minus 7 is minus 6, and we can factor this out, right? You can use a calculator to factorize, or I can see that x plus 3 works with the x minus 2. So plus 3 minus 2 gives me plus 1, and check the sum and the product. So 3 times minus 2 gives me minus 6. So solutions are x equals negative 3 or x is equal to 2. But we're going to say not applicable or reject here, because we want all the answers which is greater than equal to negative 1. So we're going to say reject here. Okay, so there's only one answer, which is x equals 2. You can try substituting negative 3 in the original. So we can't have negative 3 here, and negative 3, the square root of anything is positive. So this is negative 3 plus 7, which is 4. Square root of 4 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 on the left hand side and negative 3 on the right hand side. So you can clearly see that is failing. So the only one that works, which is the number 2. Now if you want to check how to factor this out on the calculator, you can put these coefficients of x squared, the coefficient of x and the value of c. So in other words, ABC. So what you will do is say mode 5 3, right? You go to mode 5 3, press 1 for x squared, coefficient of x squared, coefficient of x is 1, and the coefficient, in other words the b value, and the c value is minus 6. Right, so we got x equals 2 or x equals negative 3. Once you get these answers, put these answers down, and then go one back by taking the 2 over and the minus 3 over. So you get x plus 3, x minus 2. I hope you guys understand. Right, let's continue on to the next problem. Solve for x and y simultaneously. So we will solve for x and y simultaneously by choosing making y the subject. So y equals 2x plus 7, right? I took the 2x over and add 7 is there as is. So I need to replace the values. I need to replace y with 2x plus 7. There's a y here and there's a y in the front, right? So let's replace it on the side. So I need to replace the y's. Only one y here. So what we can say is x squared minus x minus y will be negative into 2x plus 7 minus 3 is equal to 0. So we have x squared minus x minus 2x minus 7, distribute the negative in the brackets, equals 0. So we have x squared minus 3x minus 7 minus 3 is minus 10 is equal to 0. So we say x, I think 5 and 2 works, so we should have plus 5, no, minus 5 x minus 5, right, and x plus 2 is equal to 0. In the previous question I showed you how to use a formula, how to use the calculator to solve this, right? So minus 5 times 2 is negative 10, minus 5 plus 2 is negative 3. That works. So x equals 5 or x equals negative 2. Now if I substitute 5 inside here, 5 times 2 is 10, 10 plus 7 is 17, so I'm getting 17, or y is equal to, substitute negative 2 here, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, plus 7 is 3. So solutions are 5 and 17, or negative 2 and 3. Right, so I have two answers, 5 and 17, so I can write it in coordinate form. Continuing over to the next question, for what values of x is 3x squared less than or equal to x? So we bring the x over and write it in standard form. Please don't try to cancel the x's on both sides and simplify, because then you will lose a solution. So 3x squared minus x is less than or equal to 0. We take out x as a common factor. We left with 3x minus 1 less than or equal to 0. Draw a number line, alright, and then solve. Drawing the number line, we put critical values here. So solutions here is 0, and the solution there is 1/3. Those are called critical values on the number line, right? And then substitute any value after 1/3, like the number 10. So 10 and 10, that's positive, positive. So positive, negative, positive. You can alternate the signs after you get one of them, because these are linear factors. Right? If you have quadratic factors, you can't really alternate the sign. You need to take values in between. Now, less than or equal to 0, we're looking for negative answers and including. So I mean, include 0, include 1/3, and the answer is in between. Right? So 0 less than or equal to x is greater than or equal to 0, but less than or equal to 1/3. I hope you guys understood that. Right, moving on to the next question. We have f of x, which is x plus 2, x minus 4, x minus 4. Then determine the coordinates of the y-intercepts of the graph of f. To find y-intercept, we need to say f of 0. Right, so if you substitute 0, you got 2 times negative 4 times negative 4. So you got 2 times what do we have? Negative 4 times negative 4, which is 16. You should get 32. Right, so what's the y-intercept? Coordinates. So coordinates is 0 and 32. Let me check this up. Negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. So that's correct. Determine f prime x. Now, in order to find f prime x, make sure to write this in the, in the correct form, which is basically write f of x in polynomial form. So, in other words, in power form. Right, so we have x plus 2 into, remember, if we open these two up, we're going to get x squared. This is like squaring a binomial, alright? So x squared minus 4x is minus 8x, so minus 16x times 2. No, minus 8x is correct. Minus 8x. Remember, I'm opening this up. So minus 4x minus 8x plus 16. Then I'm going to distribute the x inside. So I'm going to get x cubed minus 8x squared plus 16x, and then add the 2x squared. So right here, 2x squared minus 16x. 2 times negative 8x is minus 16x, yes. And then I have plus 32. I can see the positive 16 and the negative 16 cancels out. So all I have is f of x, which is equal to x cubed minus 6x squared plus 32. I just want to check if this is correct. X times x squared is x cubed minus 8x squared. 2x squared. Make sure to double check your answer. Right. Now we can find f prime x using rules. 3x squared. Right, 3 times the number in the front and take away 1 from the power. 2 times the number in the front, minus 6 is minus 12. Take away 1 from the power is just x, and derivative of constant is 0. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Now, for what values of x will f prime x equal to 0. So we're going to take out 3x as a common factor, and we are left with x minus 4 is equal to 0, because 3x squared, just left with 1x there. Minus 12 divided by 3 is minus 4. X and x cancels out. Yes, that's correct. So now what we have is x equals 0 or x is equal to 4. For what values of x will f prime x be equal to 0? So remember, when f prime x is equal to 0, we kind of we are solving for turning points, and we can see that this graph is a positive graph, right? So you know what the shape will look like. Remember this is a cubic function, so you know what the shape looks like. It looks like that, right? And I can see the minimum value, I can see the value of 0 will be there at the maximum, and the value of 4 will be here at the minimum, because of the shape of the graph, right? Now moving on to the next question. On the set of axes provided, sketch the graph of f. Both x and y intercepts, turning points or stationary points, points of inflection. Now points of inflection we never do, so okay, we know what the shape of the graph is, so we know what the y-intercept is, 32. Y-intercept is 32, so somewhere around here, right? So 32, that's 35, 32, I will choose somewhere around here, right? My x-intercept was x-intercept you get from here, minus 2 and 4 only, minus 2 and 4 only, so it's turning on the x-axis, minus 2 and 4. So the graph should go up, right? So where else is the turning point? The turning points are at 0 and minus 2 and 4. 0 and 4 are my turning points. At 0 I've got a turning point, but if I substitute 0, I'm going to get a turning point at 32, right? So 0 and 32 is my turning point, and that's a maximum, right? And then this graph is going to come down, so we know what our maximum and minimum is. So this is coming down, right? And this is going up. Okay, now I need to join there and come down, and right, so we got our graphs. And then inflection point we're going to represent as well. Alright, try to smoothen out the curve. Inflection point is somewhere in between here. Inflection point is going to be at 2, because 4 plus 0 divided by 2, so you can say the inflection point is there, right, at 2. And what's the inflection point? Taking the double derivative, let's get the point of inflection, which is the double derivative. So we're going to say TP is at 0 and 32, or TP, not TP, I mean turning point maximum, so maximum, right? So local maximum at 0 and 32, and local minimum local minimum is at 4 and 0, 4 and 0. And inflection point, we're trying to find that. We can find f double prime x. To find f double prime x, we will get 6x minus 12 equals 0. So we can clearly see x equals 2, so we're going to find f of 2. If I try to find f of 2, I can just substitute it into this original here, f of 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 minus 4 is negative 2, and negative 2, right? So I've got 4 times 4, which is 16, so I should get 16. So because of the shape, the way the shape of the graph is, right? It should be 16. It's like coming wider there, right? Because remember 2 and 16 is my turning point, inflection point. 2 and 16. So inflection point is at 2 and 16. Right, so there was no need to find the double derivative. You can just add the 2x value the two critical values, right, and then divided by 2. Remember, inflection point represents concavity change, so we can see the concavity is changing from here, right? It becoming concave up and concave down. So I hope you guys understood that, right? So we got points of inflection, both the x and y intercepts. X intercepts, y intercepts. Label the following x and y intercepts. So we need to label. So this is -2, 0, and this is 4, 0. Right, x intercepts. Let's put x intercepts, which is -2, 0, and comma, and we have 4 zeros, and y intercept is basically 0 and 32, as we can see here. Okay, and I think we have enough information on this graph, and we can just call this graph f. Alright, moving on. For what values of x is f of x greater than or equal to 0? Greater than or equal to 0 means it's above the x-axis, so the graph is above the x-axis after -2, above and equal to 0. So after -2, the entire graph is just above the x-axis, so x is just greater than or equal to -2. X is greater than or equal to -2. This here means above x-axis, or above the line, above x-axis, or above the line y is equal to 0, which is the horizontal line, which is the x-axis in this case. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Next question. The graph of f and g have been sketched on the set of axes below. F of x is log x plus 2 base m, g of x is -x plus 4, right? And b and c are the x and y intercepts of the graph of f respectively. So f of x is a log graph, which is this one here. It's a shifted log. The original log graph is shifted 2 units to the left, not right, 2 units to the left. So obviously the asymptote was there, now it becomes the vertical asymptote here. Then g of x is -x plus 4. That's the graph of g of x. There's no asymptote for g of x, so it can go through the asymptote, the g graph. B and c are the x and y intercepts of the graph of f respectively. B and c of the log graph, right? We can see there's a point on the log graph, so we can substitute that into the log function and find the values of m. The dotted line through D with the equation x equals -2 is the asymptote for f. There was no need to give us that, because we could have found x equals -2 by saying x plus 2 is equal to 0, x equals -2, which is the vertical asymptote of the log function. Determine the value of m. To find the value of m, we're going to substitute this at, we're going to say at, we're going to substitute the point that lies on the graph of f, which is 3, 1. So y equals log x plus 2 base m. Right, so now the value of x is 3 and the value of y is 1. Log 3 plus 2 is 5 base m. Now if you want to write this in exponential, this is basically equal to, if you're writing this in exponential, the base remains the base. M equals, actually m to the power 1 is equal to 5, right? So we've got an answer m. This implies m equals 5, right? Therefore m equals 5. So we've got an answer. So log 5 base 5 is equal to 1. I hope you guys understood that. Right, determine the coordinates of b and c if m equals 5. So y equals log x plus 2 base 5 we want y-intercept. Y-intercept is making x equal to 0, right? Making x equal to 0. So y equals log 2 base 5. I can just put that onto the calculator. There's a log function, log base 5 with a 2 there, log 2 base 5, 0,43, right? And the coordinates of b will now become, therefore b becomes, what is b? That wasn't b, that was c actually. That is c, 0 and 0,43. And to find the x-intercept, we need to make y 0. 0 equals log x plus 2 base 5. Now the base remains the base, so 5 to the power 0 equals x plus 2. And 5 to the power 0 is 1. And take the 2 over, minus 2 is equal to x. Therefore, x is equal to negative 1. If x is negative 1, then therefore the coordinate of b is negative 1 and 0. I hope you understood that. Next question. For what values of x is f of x less than or equal to g of x? How many marks is that? That's just 2 marks. So I think we can just look at the graph and solve that. Remember, this is minus 1. That coordinate there is minus 1. Where's the f graph above the g graph? And the f graph is above the g graph. That's what they no. Where is the f graph below the g graph? F graph is below the g graph between, remember this line here is minus 2, so this was minus 2, right? So the f graph is here, so you can see this is a graph of f and that's a graph of g. So the graph of f needs to be below the graph of g, right? So it's only between is from here, which is 3, from negative 2 to 3. You can't go past beyond negative 2, right? So negative 2 not including, but 3 including, because they said less than equal to, right? So what's the answer? Negative 2, x is greater than negative 2 but less than equal to 3, right? So that's what the answer is from minus 2 to 3. Let's check if that is correct. From minus 2 to 3, the graph of f is always below the graph of g and is equal at 3. Right, so nice question. Moving on the same system of axes, sketch the graph of f inverse, the inverse of f, the inverse of the graph of f, which is a log graph, right? The log graph. Label the intercepts and asymptotes and the point where f inverse x equals g of x on the same system of axes. So we need to sketch it here, right? So let me take these out. It's easy to sketch the inverse of f. What did they say? Did they say we need to find the, they didn't say you must find the, see, the question didn't say you must find, on the same system of axes, sketch the graph of f inverse, the inverse of f. Label the intercepts, asymptotes and the point where f inverse x equals g of x. So clearly they told us not to find, we don't need to find the f inverse function, right? Okay, so let's go and sketch the f inverse. We see we have a point which is minus 1 0, right? We got a point minus 1 0, so this point minus 1 0, so I'm trying to do question D, part D from here. So we're trying to do D here, right? So we know on the f graph is minus 1 0. As on the inverse graph, what will you get? On the f graph is minus 1 0, so on the inverse graph you're going to get 0 and negative 1. On the f graph we have a vertical asymptote which is x equals negative 2. On the inverse function you're going to have a horizontal asymptote which is y equals negative 2. Okay, we have a coordinate 3 1. We have a coordinate which is 3 and 1 here as well. So on the f inverse graph is going to be 1 and 3. Now let's look at all these points. Where's 1 and 3? Alright, so first I'm going to draw the I am going to draw the horizontal asymptote at -2. Right, so I have a horizontal asymptote at -2. Right, so now the y-intercept of the f inverse is 0 and -1. 0 and -1 exactly in between, right? And do we know what the x-intercept is? Okay, we had another point which was C. C was the point 0 and 0,43. 0 and 0,43 which lies on F. So now this one will become 0,43 and 0. So we know the x-intercept. You need to switch the x and the y-intercept. So remember, if this is 1, that's 2. Trying to make equal spaces here because of the way this is. That's 1, that's 2. That should be fine. So 0,43 is somewhere around here, right? So I'm going to sketch the graph now. Right, and this is 0,43, and this is the graph of f inverse. And remember, this point over here now became the place where they intersect. There's supposed to be a point which is 1 and 3 somewhere. Where's the point 1? Should be 3, 1. So 1 and 3 should be here. That should be the point 1 and 3. Yeah, it looks like this is a point where it's intersecting at 1 and 3. So I can just call this point 1 and 3, right? On the same system of axes, sketch the graph of f inverse, the inverse of f, label the intercepts, asymptotes, and the points where f inverse x is equal to g of x. There. 1 and 3. Yeah, should be fine. But now if you want to know how to find the inverse function, remember the graph of f is y equals log base 5 x plus 2. So if you want to find the inverse function, you know you need to switch both. Over here, what's the domain here? The range, where is the graph sketch when x is greater than equal to -2, not greater than equal to, just greater than -2. That's a domain, right? And the range is y is an element of real numbers. Anyways, continuing here, we need to switch the x and the y. So x equals log y plus 2 base 5. So this is 5 to the power x. Y plus 2 is equal to 5 to the power x. So x equals log y plus 2 base 5. That's correct. And then you're going to minus 2. So therefore y is equal to 5 to the power x minus 2. Now if I substitute the x value as 1, you are getting 3. So this is my inverse function, right? So my inverse function f inverse x is now equal to 5 to the power x minus 2. But how do we know whether if this point also lies on G? We don't know. I just use the graph to kind of like deduce. Obviously if that value is 1, that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. If that is 1 and it is intersecting there, the point has to be 3 there, right? So that's how I solve that. Now let's solve question 4. Moving on to question 4, what do we have in question 4? F prime x and g of x. Find f prime x and g prime x respectively for each of the following. So we want to find f prime x. It's not in power form, so inside over outside, the rules of surd. If you have the nth root of x to power m, that's x to power m over n. Remember that rule. So that's x to power 2 over 5 minus 3 x to power negative 3. So remember this one I brought up. X to power negative n is equal to 1 over x to power n. So those are some of the rules to remember. Now to find f prime x, we got 2/5 times 1. X to power, take away 1 from the power here, so negative 3/5. Minus 3 times minus 3 is plus 9. X to power negative 4. So you can write it in positive exponent form. X to power 3 over 5 plus 9 over x to the power 4. You can go in, so this is fine in those two. Right, now finding the derivative here, we can see that it's a rational function, so we need to factorize. So that's going to give me x plus 1 all squared, x minus 1 all squared, sorry. That's going to give me x minus 1 all squared. If I factorize the bottom, you're going to have x minus 1. X minus 1 cancels out, so you're left with 1x minus 1 there divided by 4. Now you can split this up, or you can just say g of x is now equal to quarter x, or in other words x over 4 minus quarter. Right, so now you're finding g prime x. G prime x is 1 times quarter is quarter, and take away 1 from the power, you're just going to be left with quarter, because 1 minus 1 is x to the power 0. I hope you understood that, guys. Right, so that's a nice question there. So far nothing difficult, alright. No questions were difficult so far. So far is so good. It's just straightforward basic problems. Actually the NSC paper that I've done was a little bit more challenging. Just have a look at that. Right, let's look at this. The following information is given for a function f. F of 4 is equal to 5. F of 4 is equal to 5, right? And determine the equation of the tangent to f at x equals 4. Determine the equation of the tangent to f at x is equal to 4 in the form y equals mx plus c. Now equation of the tangent at x equals to 4 is written in this form. Remember, because we are given x equals 4, right, to find the equation of the tangent line, first we need y minus y1 equals m into x minus x1. We already know that we have a point at 4 and 5, so at the point of contact, which is 4 and 5, right? So this here becomes point of contact, which is 4 and 5. Why are we choosing the 4? Because we want the tangent line at 4, so we got a point of contact. Now what's the gradient at 4? So m, to find m, you need to say f prime x, and now f prime x needs to be evaluated at x equals to 4. So we're basically finding f prime 4, and f prime 4, we know the gradient is 7. So we can say y minus y1, which is 5, equals 7 into x minus 4. We're going to open up this side, which is 7x minus 28, take the minus 5 over, so you get plus 5, and then we have 7x minus 28 plus 5, negative 23. Right, so the equation of the tangent line is y equals 7x minus 23. Let's continue. Using first principles, find h prime x is if h of x is equal to, that's basic linear function. So we're going to say h prime x is equal to limit as h approaches 0 of 1 over h into f of x plus h minus f of x. Now remember, your formula says is all over h. I just took out that h on the outside, right? So I made it 1 over h. You see why it's easier to write. I don't have to keep on ruling off, right? So 1 over h into what's f of x plus h? 5 into x plus h, right, minus 8, and minus 5x minus 8. Right, pretty simple because there's nothing to square and stuff. So limit as h approaches 0 of 1 over h into 5x plus 5h minus 8 minus 5x plus 8. Now you can see everything cancels out here. The 5x and the 5x, the minus 8 and the plus 8, and you can also cancel out the h's. See there? You can even cancel out the h because you're left with 5h here and you got 1 over h there. So let's do that in the next step. There's too much of cancellation. So 1 over h into 5h, right? And we're going to cancel out the h's, and there's nothing to substitute into, so the answer is just 5. Now if you use your rules to differentiate this, you still get 5. Right, so nice question, basics. Moving on. Why there's so much of space provided? Yes, because you have to keep on ruling off, right? So no need to do that. Use 1 over h, much better. Right, so moving on to the next question. Consider the arithmetic sequence given by, so we have the arithmetic sequence given by 22, 25, 28, 31, 262. Determine the number of terms in the sequence. To find the number of terms, we need the Tn formula. So Tn equals a plus n minus 1d, and thus equals to 262. Right. Now what's a? A is 22 plus n minus 1. What is d? Common difference is 25, so d is equal to 3, because 25 minus 22 is 3, is equal to 262. Right, so we got 22 plus, there's no need to open it up, right? You can just take away 22 here. Let's not open it up. And then divide it by 3 and then add 1. 3 into n minus 1. 262 minus 22 is 240. Right, 240 divided by 3 is 8 times 3 is 24, right? So that's 80. Right, so now I've got n is equal to 81 terms. Right, so I've got 81 terms in the sequence. Let's see if you can do that. So we got 262 minus 22, then we said divided by 3, yeah, and then add 1. That's right. Represent the sum of all the terms using sigma notation. Now how do you write sigma notation? Right, so remember sigma notation is in this form. Sn is equal to sum n equals 1 to n of the Tn formula. Oops, we should have worked out the Tn formula here, but we know what the Tn formula is. See, this is a Tn formula. So that's 3n minus 3. So 22 minus 3 is 19. So 3n minus 19. So we can say S represent the sum of all the terms using the sigma notation. So S41 is equal to sigma n equals 1, not 41, there's 81 terms, okay, is equal to n equals 1 to 81 of the Tn formula. What's the Tn formula? 3n minus 19. How we got this? By simplifying this part in the, yeah, in this box here. So 22 minus 3, because we need to open it up. 22 minus 3 is 19, positive 19, and 3 times n is 3n. Yeah, so that should give me the answer. If the pattern continues, determine the smallest number of terms that must be added to the sequence above so that the sum of all the terms will be more than 1500. If the pattern continues, right? If the pattern continues, determine the smallest number of terms that must be added to the sequence above so that the sum of all the terms will be more than 1500. Now we need to make sense of this. So we need to work out how many terms must be added. We adding some terms here such that the sum must be greater than 15,000. That's what we're trying to work out. So let's work out what's the sum to 81 terms first. Sum to 81 terms is n over 2 into a plus l, the sum of all these numbers right up till 262. So 81 over 2 into a plus l is 22 plus 262. Right, so I'm just going to use a calculator for this. 22 plus 262 equals 284, and times 81, and then divided by 2. So I've got 11,502. Right, so I've got 11,502 as the sum, total sum here. So, but I need to find Sn such that is greater than 15,000. Sn such that it is greater than 15,000. I think you need to work out the Sn formula rather. Sn is equal to n over 2. Work out the total number of terms and then just minus the 81 terms, I think. Yeah, so 2a plus n minus 1 times d, and make it greater than 15,000. Okay, yeah, I think you should be solving that. So that's n over 2. Multiply both sides by 2, so you get 30,000 here. So that's n. 2a is 2 times 22 plus n minus 1 times 3, right? So we got n into 44 plus 3n minus 3 is greater than 30,000. So we have n into 3n. 44 minus 3 is plus 41. Bring the 30,000 over because it looks like a quadratic inequality we're solving. Right, so now we got 3n squared plus 41n minus 30,000 is greater than 0. Can we solve this? Can we solve this? Can we divide this by 3? Is 41 divided by 3? I think 41 is a prime number. Can we take 41 and divide by 3? No, we can't. So we're going to enter this into the quadratic function mode 5 3. We got 3, we have 41, and we have minus 30,000. Right, so I've got 93 point. Whoa, we're getting funny answers here. Okay. 93.39 and 93.39. So okay, let's try this out. So we need to use a quadratic formula. N equals minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. B squared is 41 squared minus 4, 3 times negative 30,000 divided by 2a, 2 times 3. So I'm getting these answers here, but we want the minimum number of terms, so you don't have to go and put greater than 0. The first value that will be giving me an answer of which is greater than 0, that's what I'm going to check. So I'm going to say n equals what were the answers? 93.39, 93.40, or n equals negative 107.07. So I'm going to say not applicable here, reject. So n is approximately equal to, we should say n is equal to 93.40. Should it be 93 or should it be 94? We're going to check which is the first value of n that's going to give me greater than 0. So it can't be 93, because if you try 93, it's going to get it's going to give me a negative answer. Let's try 3 times 93 squared plus 41 times 93 minus 30,000. So I'm getting a negative answer. So if I try 94, that's going to work. 94 here and 94 here. Right, so 94 works. So what we're going to say is the answer is equal to 94 total terms. But now remember, you already had, okay, there was no need to do this, right? 11502. Yeah, there was no need to do that. So we already have 81 terms here. So how many terms must be added? 94 minus, number of terms to be added is 94 minus 81. Number of terms to be added is equal to 94 minus 81. So there are 13 terms must be added if the pattern continues. Alright, so number of terms to be added, which is 13 terms. Alright, so I hope you guys are understanding. Alright, so let's see. This was a nice question. If the pattern continues, determine the smallest number of terms that must be added to the sequence above so that the sum of all the terms will be more than 15,000. Alright, so we need to add 13 terms. Yes. Right, so now let's look at question 6, which is financial mathematics. You invest in two different investment schemes for a period of 5 years. Right, so you place 3,500 into an investment at the end of each month. Interest on this investment is 15% per annum compounded monthly at the end of each month, alright? Uh, 15% per annum compounded. So this is an annuity, future value annuity should be. You make a deposit of 24,000 immediately and then only make a second deposit of 7,000 into the same account at the end of third year. Interest on the investment is 20% per annum compounded quarterly. If you combine the value of your two investments at the end of the 5-year period, then what is the value of this lump sum? Give your answer correct to 2 decimal places. So let's look at investment 1. Investment 1, you're just investing money at the end of each month for 5 years, right? So investment 1, you're going to take future value annuity or future value. Yeah, what formula do they use in your formula sheet? Let's check. What formula did they give us here? We should check. Right, so the formula that they gave us here is financial math formulas, not these ones. There's it here. Yeah, where's the financial math formulas? Yeah, so they gave F equals, right? They gave this formula, so that's what we are using. So let's copy this formula there. Right, so that's my financial math formula. Right, so that's the formula I'm using for investment 1. So now X is basically 3,500, right, into 3,500 into 1 plus I, 1 plus, what's the interest? 15%, so 15 over 1,200 to the power, or you can say 0.15 over 12, same thing, to the power 60, because 5 years you have 60 payments, minus 1 divided by 15 over 1,200. Now we're going to work this answer out using our calculator. Financial maths, we must use a calculator because it's very difficult to work out those values. So we got 3,500 into, okay, I can just take the 3,500 on top, no. So we got 3,500 into another bracket 1 plus 15 over 1,200, right, to the power 60 minus 1, right, close the bracket, over the interest rate, which is 15 over 1200, and I'm getting an answer of 310,000. Right, so I get this answer. Please write out this answer. Right, I'm just going to copy and paste it here for you. I'm going to take 4 decimal places, then at the end I'm going to take 2 decimals. Right, so I've got an answer of, okay, it's right, it's fine. You can just comma 78. So you can say the answer is 310,010, comma 78. Now the next one is, you make a deposit of 24,000 immediately and then only make a second deposit. So investment 2, right, investment 2, you make a deposit immediately, right, so of how much? 24,000, right, you make a deposit into the bank, and then only make a second deposit of 7,000 into the same account at the end of the third year. So at the end of the third year you make another deposit of 7k. Now you need to accumulate both to 5 years. If you combine the value of your 2 investments at the end of the 5-year period, what is the value of the lump sum? So this is 5 years, right? Now we taking this right till the end. Now the future value is, remember the interest is 20% per annum. Interest is 20% per annum, because it's just yearly. 20% per annum, compounded quarterly. Okay, so there's a compounding period here, right? So compounded quarterly, and this timeline is in years, so compounded quarterly. Now to find the accumulated value, you're going to accumulate the 24,000 to the end. 1 plus what is this, 20 over 400 to the power 4 times 5, because there's 5 years, right? And this is the factor that we use because you're taking it over the period 4, right? And either way 5 years has 20 quarters, plus we got 7,000 into 1 plus 20 over 400 to the power 4 times, now you've got balance of 2 years remaining, so take that forward, right? And we get a final answer here as well. So we got 24,000 into 1 plus 20 over 400, right, to the power 4 times 5 is 20, plus 7,000 into 1 plus 20 over 400 to the power 4 times 2 is 8 quarters to the power 8, right? And we get an answer of 74,021. Right, so we get this answer here. Right, so what's the answer we're getting? We're getting this answer, 74,021.33. Alright, so 74,021,33. Now we're going to add both, but you see now this is 330, so that's why I said use 4 decimals here. So I wouldn't, because we basically combining both the investments, so we got 7771. Alright, so now we can, if we add up everything, therefore combined value will now be equal to adding this one and this one together. So we're going to add that one plus 310,000 and 10, 310,000, 300, 310,010 point, what was it, 0.7771, right? And the answer I'm getting is comma 11, whereas if you round it off, yeah, you would have still got 11, so it's fine. You just use 2 decimal places, so 384,032, comma 11 rands. Right, so I hope you guys are understanding. You can go and accumulate this 24,000 to 3 years, then add the 7 and then take the total value, but it's too long. Just work out the individual at the end, right? Now moving on to the next question. Right, so that was yeah, that's fine. That was 15% there, and that's 20% here. Right, perfect. Move on to the next question. To start your ice cream business, you take out a loan of 250,000. The bank offers an interest rate of 10% per annum compounded monthly. Right, so we know what's happening here. We got a loan series. How much should you pay each month if you'd like to pay the loan off at the end of 10 years, right? So 10 years is 120 months. If the first payment is made at the end of first month, so normal formula, so we're going to say P is equal to X into 1 minus 1 plus I to the power negative n divided by I. That's the formula you should be using. Now we already have the loan amount, right? So the loan amount is, so this implies we know the loan amount is 250,000, which is equal to X. We're solving for the monthly payment X, which is 1 minus 1 plus interest rate is 10 over 1200 to the power negative 120, right? So basically 12 times 10 divided by 10 over 1200. Now you're going to take 10 over 1200 times 250,000 and divide it by all of this. So you can just write down the answer here, taking 250,000 times 10 over 1200 divided by all of this, which is 1 minus 1 plus 10 over 1200 to the power negative 120. So what's the answer for X? Give your answer correct to 2 decimal places. Alright, so the answer for X is we got 250,000 mod 250,000 times 10 over 1200. Right, so I don't know why I'm writing here. Should be writing there. Let's take all this down here. Right, make the formula bigger. So as you can see, we kind of like directly substituted into the formula. Right, so and we solve for X. That's what I was typing now. 10 over 1200 divided by 1 minus 1 plus 10 over 1200 to the power negative 120. So 3303,77 77 because that's a 8, so 77. Give your answer correct to 2 decimal places. So right, we have the answer. If you decide to pay 6,000 per month only starting at the end of the second month, if you decide to pay 6,000 per month only starting at the end of second month, then how many payments will be needed to pay off the loan? Remember, it's still 10 year, no, we don't know. It's not 10 years now. Right, so you want to pay, so we kind of like solving for n. Now remember, your loan amount is here. Let me explain this timeline. Remember, your loan amount is here, right? This is at 0. At 1 there's no payment. At 2 there's a payment of 6,000, right? So you need to accumulate the loan to time period 1. You need to accumulate for the 1 month that you didn't pay. Right, so we're going to use the same formula as above, right? But we need to accumulate the loan amount for a single month. But we're solving for n, right? And we have the value of x. So what we're doing with the loan amount is we accumulating it for 1 month. And we don't know after how many months So we're solving for n. So P, you start paying from the second month. So we're still going to end up solving for n here. What if I don't accumulate the loan amount to there, and if I collect all this? So add a factor on this side, so 1 plus I to the power, yeah. So basically you can either, yeah, so you kind of like just still solving for n. Let's solve for P. So P is 250,000 into 1 plus 10 over 1200, right? That's to the power 1 is equal to 6,000, 250,000 rand loan, yeah. And the interest rate is 10% per annum compounded monthly, right? So that's correct. Into 1 minus 1 plus 10 over 1200 to the power negative n, and we divide it by 10 over 1200. Now there's lots of cancellations we can do here. We can take out the 3 zeros from here, right? So but let's not do that. Let's divide it by 6,000 and multiply by 10 over 1200. So this is what you need to do to get a number on this side. So we're going to take 2. Okay, let's take out these zeros. So you can take out 3 zeros from here and 3 zeros from here. So far you have 250 times, what's 1 plus 10 over 1200? Let's check if you can get a nice number there. 1 plus 10 over 1200. Yeah, I got 121 over 20, 120. So I got 121 over 120. Right, so now remember, I'm taking this side and I'm going to divide it by 6. Divide it by 6. And then you need to take the 10 over 1200 and multiply it across. So times 10 over 1200. Right, so what you are left on this side is just 1 minus, remember what 1 plus 10 over 1200 is? 121 over 20. 121 over 120 to the power negative n. Alright, you can actually solve this entire thing on the calculator. You can just type the whole thing out and press shift solve and give you the answer for n, but you need to show methods of logs. Alright, so now we're trying to get this value out, right? So what we can say is, see, another 0 here and another 0 there can cancel out, and I think there's too much of cancellation. Let's get a number on this side and take 1 minus the answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 121 over 120, right, is equal to 1 minus this answer here. What's that answer? So what we have is 250 over 6. Okay, I'm not going to cancel anything from here now. Times 121 over 120 times 10 over 1200. Now you can see for yourself, you're getting 607 over 605 over 1728. Right, this is to the power negative n. Okay, now what's 1 minus the answer? 1 minus the answer is equal to 1123 over 1728. So n equals, remember you're going to have negative n, so I'm multiplying both sides by negative, so negative with a log 1123 over 1728 base 121 over 120. So now we're going to get an answer for n. So I'm going to do negative, put a calculator on, negative with a log, base is 121 over 120. You don't have to do that, you can just say 1 plus 10 over 1200 is fine, and that is 1123 over 1728, and see what I get. I get 51,93, 51,9305, 51,9305, 0181, 0181. So therefore n is equal to 52 payments. where you're going to have 51 full payments. So this implies 51 full payments, right, of 6,000 rands each, and one final payment less than 6,000. So that's the reason why you have 52 full payments, right? So I hope you understood that. Now what I was saying is, what if you type the original sum into the calculator, and do we get the answer? Well, you should try it out. You will get the answer, but it takes about 30 seconds to 1 minute. So because it has to do lots of your calculator needs to do complex calculations in order to solve that. Alright, so we got 51 payments. Yeah, we kind of like double the payment, so obviously you'll be able to pay off the loan quicker. Much better problem. Now let's solve the next problem, which is x squared minus 16x plus 73 is equal to a into x minus m all squared plus p. Then determine the values of m and p. Yes, to find the values of this, right? So this is basically completing the square, right? So you want to complete the square here. So we're going to say left hand side is now equal to, this is in completing the square form, right? So left hand side is equal to, or you can expand the whole thing on the right hand side and equate coefficients. So x squared minus 16x plus the coefficient of negative 16 divided by 2, right? The coefficient of x, which is negative 16 divided by 2, you square it, and because you're saying plus this here squared, you need to do minus the same thing squared, right, and leave the 73 as is. Right, now automatically the first three terms becomes a perfect square, so you can just write x and square there, and put a negative, what is minus 16 divided by 2? That's negative 8. Now if you open this up, you'll definitely get this, because negative 16 divided by 2 is, and if you square that, you will get 64, and you are getting 64. So this is basically 73 minus 64, so you're going to get plus 9. What is 73 minus 64? 73 minus minus 16 over 2 close bracket squared, right? So we are getting 9. So what's the value of m? Therefore a equals 1, m equals 8, and p is equal to 9. Comparing, right? So it's in completing the square form. Or you can do the right hand side and open that up, RHS, or you can say, remember you're going to open up this equation, so we got x squared minus 16x plus 73 is equal to a into x squared minus 2mx, multiplying these two times 2, plus m squared plus p. Now solving this, you're going to say this is now equal to ax squared. We got minus 2amx plus am squared plus p. Thus x squared minus 16x plus 73. Now you can, what you can do is you can equate the x squared terms to x squared terms, so a is equal to 1, right? You can say minus 2am is equal to minus 16, so minus 2am equals minus 16, but you know what the value of a is already, right? So let me make these smaller here, right? Make some space to solve these, right? And let's move all this out. Let's take this a bit higher up, right? Need some space here. or the second method I'm doing here. So we already know the value of a is 1, so we got minus 2m equals negative 16. So now m is equal to 8, dividing both sides. And the last one is 73. So 2am squared plus p, 2am squared plus p is equal to 73. So we know what is a and we know what is m. M is, so we need to square the m. That's supposed to be a square there. Alright, so if you square the m, 64 m squared, so in other words 8 squared is 64 times 2, that's 128. Check 64 times 2, 64 times 2, that's 128. This whole plus p is equal to 73. Something's wrong here. 2am squared. No, where did the 2 come from? There's no 2 here. It is am squared. So there's no 2 there. It's just am squared. So take out that. It should just give me 64. So 64 plus p equals 73. So the value of p is 9. Right, so both methods acceptable. Then determine the values of m and p. So m is 8, p is 9. Now let's solve these equations. If 2 to the power x equals k, determine the following in terms of k. 2 to the power x is equal to k, so we can interchange these two. That's 2 to the power x squared. Now what's 2 to the power x? Remember, you can change the 2x around. X times 2 is still 2x. So we got k squared. Easy peasy. Next one. 2 to the power x over 3. So you can say this is 2 to the power x to the power 1/3. So you get x over 3. And 2 to the power x is k. So you got k to the power 1 over 3, which is the cube root of k. So we can write it in both ways. Okay. And the last one, 2 to the power negative x plus k. Sorry, 2 to the power negative x plus 1. Let's break it up. 2 to the power negative x times 2 to the power 1. And next step, we're going to break this up as 1 over 2 to the power x times 2. So the times 2 remains the same. And 2 to the power x is k. So you got 2 over k. I hope you guys understood that. Pretty simple. Solve for p if that's the case. Now, if you want to solve for p if this is the case, then what you have, log 2 base p, 3 to the power. Now what happens when you got 3 to the power m divided by 3 to the power n? That's 3 to the power m minus n. So we're subtracting log 2 base p minus log 8 base p is equal to 3 squared. So now I can drop the bases, right, and solve for this. So now what happens when you have subtraction of logs? When you subtract logs, you divide. So you got log 2 over 8 is equal to 2. 3 squared is 9, so we drop the bases. Now we got 2. So 2 over 8, right? So same base. Remember, that's one rule. Next rule is that's 3 to the power n here. Log a base b minus log, let's use x and y. Log x base b minus log y base b basically equal to log x over y base b. And if you have a plus, then it becomes a product. So that's what we have now. So we can write this as an exponential. So p squared is equal to quarter, because 2 over 8 is quarter. Alright, I hope you guys are understanding. If I rewrite this as log quarter base p is equal to 2, right? So remember, an exponential is a log, right? An exponential equation can be written as a log. So p is equal to plus minus half, taking square root on both sides. But we know base of p, see this log, but p is greater than 0. Why? Because of the base. See, the base has to be positive. Log of negative numbers does not exist. This implies the value of p is just half. I hope you guys understood that. Right, that's a nice problem. Moving on to the next question, which is on functions. Question 8. F of x is 12 over x for x greater than 0. That should be a hyperbola in the first and third quadrant. There's a only first quadrant diagram is given because they said x is greater than 0. So there's a restricted hyperbola. G is the axis of symmetry of f. So we can see axis of symmetry is just this. How do you find the axis of symmetry of a general hyperbola? So if you got y over x minus p plus q, so you add it like this. That's one axis of symmetry, x minus p plus q. These are the two axes of symmetry, right? X minus p plus q, which is equal to y. That's the positive axis of symmetry. And the negative axis of symmetry, just put a negative in the denominator only, plus q is equal to y. So those are the positive. This is the positive axis of symmetry, that's the negative axis of symmetry. So we're looking for the positive. So in this case, the axis of symmetry will just be y equals x, right? B is a point where f intersects g, where the axis of symmetry intersects the graph of g. H is a tangent of f at C. Alright, so there's a tangent, so we need to get a point of contact here, right? Don't forget. We need the C, and we need the x value at C as well. A is the y-intercept of H. Okay. Now, nothing is given, just that, and the equation here is given. We can find the coordinates of B, because that's the points of intersection, right, of y and this thing, so that's possible to find. Write down the equation of G. The equation of G is y equals x. Right, pretty simple. Moving on to the next question. Determine the coordinates of B. Leave your answer in third form. To find the coordinates of B is y equals x and 12 over x. So you're going to say 12 over x equals x. So we're going to say 12 over x. 12 over x equals x. 12 over x equals x. In other words, f of x equals g of x. So what we got? 12 over x equals x. If we cross multiply, we're getting x squared is equal to 12. This implies x is equal to plus minus the square root of 12. 12 is 4 times 3, so plus minus 2 root 3. You can check the square root of 12. Since x is positive, you're going to have the coordinates of B as 2 root 3 x value, and what's the y value? 2 root 3, because you're substituting the value of x. Since x is greater than 0, x is equal to 2 root 3, which is just the square root of 12. So 2 root 3, substitute it into x, you get the y value, which is 2 root 3. Right, so the coordinates of B is 2 root 3, 2 root 3. Determine the area of ACO, triangle ACO, area of triangle ACO, area of triangle ACO. Is that it? Area of triangle ACO. That's 8 marks. Right, so I need the graph here now, right? Because I need to explain this to you. Yeah, I need to explain it in terms of the graph. Yeah, and now this is a difficult question. This is a question where you gotta think. Because remember, they gave us tangent line and stuff, so we probably need to work with the tangent line problem. So I'm just going to expand this a bit. Okay, now this question is 8 marks. Sure. So first we're gonna go. Alright, so ACO. We don't even have the coordinates here. Right, so what we know, since this is a tangent, right? Since this is a tangent, we need to find this x value here. In other words, the coordinates of C. Because we want to find this area of this triangle here. Wait. area of this triangle ACO. I'm not even going to work out the area of that triangle because I've got a trapezium here. I'm going to take the trapezium and minus this area of this triangle. Right. So, alright. Anyways, let's check how to work this out now. Remember at this point, because the equation of h of x is given, that's the equation of the tangent line. H of x is a tangent, right? Right. Remember, this is the equation of the tangent. So how did they get the gradient? They got the gradient by finding f prime x. So we need to find f of x, which is 8 over x. Was f of x 8 over x? No, it was 12 over x. F of x was 12 over x. So you need to find the derivative of this. We're going to say 12x to the power minus 1. So f prime x we're going to get is negative 12 x to the power negative 2. So which is negative 12 over x squared. Now, how did they get the gradient? They substituted some x value here and they got the gradient of negative 1/3. So we need to make this gradient function equal to that gradient because they are related. So we need to say minus 12 over x. This implies minus 12 over x squared is equal to negative 1/3. Right, because we're trying to find this value of x here. Cross multiply, take out the negatives on both sides. So we got x squared is equal to 36. This implies x is equal to plus minus 6. X is equal to 6. X is equal to plus minus 6. Now x is equal to 6 since x is greater than 0. Now since x is equal to 6 here, right, so now we got a value which is equal to 6 here. So the coordinates of C, we got 6. Right, now the x value is 6. Right, so that's all. I think that's all we need. Alright, so what we have is x equals 6 here. Right, x is equal to 6. Now we're going to take 6 and substitute it into the original equation. In other words, find f6, which is the y value. f6 is 12 over x. 12 over x is 12 divided by 6, which is 2. So the coordinate of C is 6 and 2. So we can find the equation of this line, right, because we need to find the coordinates of A. Now we're going to find the coordinates of A because therefore we find the coordinates of C, which is 6 and 2. Now we're going to attempt to find the equation of this line. So what's the equation of the tangent line? Well, we have a gradient and we have a point of contact. So y minus y1, which is 2, equals m. What's m? The gradient. What's the gradient? We already had the gradient, so why are we writing this down? There's no need to write it down, okay? So what's m? M is negative 1/3 into x minus 6. Now open this up, you got negative 1 over 3x minus 1/3 times minus 6 is plus 2, and take the minus 2 over, you get plus 2. So that answer is negative 1 over 3x plus 4. So therefore the coordinates of A will give me 0 and 4 because that's a y-intercept. Now there's nothing to do over here because you see this is the height, and remember that's parallel. So I can do area of trapezium minus the area of this triangle here, which is area of ACO, area of triangle ACO. So this is the height, which is 2, and that's a height which is 4. And yeah, sum of parallel sides, half sum of parallel sides times perpendicular height. So what's the area of triangle ACO? That's area of trapezium minus area of this small triangle. So what's the area of trapezium? Half sum of parallel sides, 4 plus 2. You know where the parallel sides are. Parallel sides is 0 to A and 0 to, so you get the area of this entire trapezium here. Right, right, so 2 plus 4, which is 6, and the height is also 6, right? and minus the area of the triangle, which is half. What's the base? The base is 6 and the height is 2. Right. Now half of 6 is 3. 3 times 6 minus half of 6 is 3. 3 times 2. So what you got? You got 18 minus 6. So you got 12 units squared. I hope you guys understood that. Very nice question. Right. So I'm going to put an asterisk here and right, because that's more like a level 4 type question. Very nice question, guys. Now moving on to question 9. In the Cartesian plane below, a piece of rope is hanging over the top of two vertical poles AB and CD. Right, so AB, CD, and that's hanging cable. The height from here to there is 12. Okay, so if you think about this Cartesian plane, we can make this the y-axis. So that's 5, that's 0 and 5. We don't know what's happening here, but maybe you can find the minimum point here, and that's something, the distance from there to there. So this can be, wait, the height is, oh this is the y-axis already. Okay, the distance, this is 12, this is 5 meters, that's 5. Why do they say that's 12 meters? Oh, the distance from there to there is 12 meters. Okay, right, so the poles remain vertical at all times and are 5 meters in height. The horizontal distance between B and D is 12. B and D is 12, the horizontal distance. Okay, point E is 1, 2. Now that's an important, that wasn't given, so 1, 2 represents the lowest point of the rope. Okay, that represents the lowest point of the rope. If the shape of the rope between points B and D is modeled by the equation y equals a into x minus p all squared plus q, then determine the value of a. To find the value of a, how are we going to find the value of a? How many marks is that? That's 4 marks. To find the value of a, we can write this as an equation, which is a into x minus p all squared plus q, and we need a point that we can substitute this into. And what is that point? Right, so first we're going to write down this y equals a into x minus 1 all squared plus 2. We can write that down. Y equals a into x minus 1 all squared plus 2. The entire distance from here to there is 12. Okay, I think we got something here. We can cut this, right? This is 0, 1, right? So we know what the distance from here to there will be. That's symmetrical. That's going to be, the distance from here to there will be 6, and the distance from here to there will also be 6. So if that is 6, then from 1 to C, 1 plus 6 is going to give me 7. So that's going to be 7, 0, and the height is 5. So that's going to be 7 and 5. So the point 75, the point 75 lies on the point 75 lies on this. So you're going to say at 7, 5. So see how you have to think, because parabola is symmetrical. That's the axis of symmetry. So 6 and 6. Now that's what we have. So 5 is now equal to, what's the value of a? A is unknown, so 7 minus 1 all squared, which is 7 minus 1 is 6 squared plus 2. Okay, whoa, that's going to be such a small answer. So 5 minus 2 is 3. 3 divided by 36 is a. Therefore a is equal to 3 divided by 36 is 1 over 12. I hope you understood what we did there. Remember 7 minus 1 is 6, 6 squared is 36. Take the 2 over, where did you get this 2 from? Okay, we substituted the point E inside here. So we're going to say at E first, which is 1 and 2, and then we got 1 and 2, and then we substituted 7 and 5 because we got that from here. Now similarly, if that is 7 and 5, then this point will be 0, 0 to negative 5. That's going to be negative 5 here. So the coordinates of A is going to be negative 5, 0. So this value will be, at B you're going to have negative 5 and 5. Negative 5 and 5 is the coordinates of B. Right, so I've got the answer. A is 1 over 12. Next one, if pole CD is shifted to the right, then what should the horizontal distance between the two vertical poles AB and CD become, so that the value of A is 1 over 100 and the lowest point of the rope is 4 meters above the ground? Okay, so just to visualize this, we have this pole CD, right? So we're shifting it to the right. Okay, what should the horizontal distance between them should become? So what we can do is we can visualize this, right? Let's take this. Let's take the pole CD, right? Let me copy this diagram. Right, so the arrows indicate that you're shifting the pole CD to the right. And to solve this problem, now remember, when you're shifting this to the right, this pole is moving, but this pole is fixed. So we have a fixed pole, and the coordinate of E now becomes, remember, is 4 meters off the ground. The coordinates of E is now some x value and is 4 meters above the ground. So we know the value of Q is 4. If you write down y equals A into x minus p all squared plus q, so we know the value of A is 1 over 100, x minus p all squared plus q is 4, right? And that is y. And what coordinate can we choose? We need to choose a coordinate on this such that it lies on this graph. So the point that lies on this graph is minus 5 and 5. So we're going to say at minus 5 and 5. Right, so if we say at minus 5 and 5, remember that point is minus 5 and 5. So 5 equals 1 over 100 into x minus p. Remember the value of x is minus 5. So we have minus 5 minus p all squared plus 4. Now remember, we can take the 4 over and multiply by 100. So we got 100 equals, we take the 4 over minus 1, so 1 times 100 is 100, and minus 5 minus p all squared, you can write it like this. This implies, see, minus 5 minus p all squared, you can write it as p plus 5, because I'm taking out a negative and squaring it, is equal to 100. So p plus 5 is equal to plus or minus 10. So p is equal to minus 10 minus 5, negative 15, we're going to write not applicable, or p is equal to 10 minus 5, which is 5, right? 10 minus 5, which is equal to 5. So when we say x minus 5 all squared, then the coordinates of x now becomes 5 and 4. So my new E1 is 5 and 4. So putting it into this graph like this, that remember we need to find that distance there, but we know what the value of the coordinate of E is, the transform point, right? From here to there is 5, so we have 5 and 4. Where did we get this 5 from? We got this 5 from, obviously it can't be negative 15, right? It can't be negative 15, it has to be 5. Because if I put negative 15 here, it doesn't work. It has to be shifted to the right, okay? Everything gets shifted to the right. So obviously the coordinates of E will now become 5 and 4. Shifts 4 units to the right. Now, remember the x value, this is the x-axis. The x value here is 5, and the x value here is minus 5. So from minus 5 to 5, we have a distance of 10. And because this graph is symmetrical, we have another distance, 10. So 10 plus 10 will be 20. So we're going to write distance between rope, distance between the poles, distance between the poles is equal to 20 units. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Right, if you have a different method, please don't forget to comment. Let's move on to the next question. A pool is being filled by a hose pipe. Right, the rate of flow increases by 10% each hour. So it's kind of a geometric, because 10% of the previous one and so on. And the table below illustrates this process. So rate of flow is 1 liter per minute. This is in hours, this is in minute, right? So after 60 minutes, you got 1 liter per minute. So after 60 minutes, you got 60 liters. So be careful. This is in minute, this is in hours. Calculate the rate of flow during the hour 24. Because we want the rate of flow, we can just use the Tn formula. So Tn is equal to A r to the power n minus 1. We know the value of A is equal to 1, right? We can clearly see A is equal to 1. And the common ratio is 1.1 divided by 1, 1 comma 1 divided by 1, so it's just 1 comma 1. So this implies the Tn formula now becomes 1 times r, which is 1 comma 1 to the power n minus 1. So because we want term 24, we can work out 1 comma 1 to the power 23. And 1.1 to the power 23, we need to use a calculator for that. So we're going to write here, let's take this calculator further up, 1.1 to the power 23 is 8,95, 8,9543, 8,9543 liters per minute. Next question. I hope you guys understood that. If the hose pipe above is filling up a pool, then how many liters of water would be in the pool at the end of 24 hours, assuming the pool was empty at the start of the process? So after 24 hours, how much of water will be in the pool? Right, that's what we're trying to find out. After 24 hours. So we know after 1 hour, 1 liter per minute, so it's going to be 60 liters. After 2 hours, it's going to be 1.1 times 60, and so on. So remember, each one is being times 60. So the pattern should actually be, so we're trying to find out the full amount. So if you're trying to work out the full amount, we need to use the Sn formula. Right, so we need to use the Sn formula. What's Sn? A into r to the power n minus 1, because it's divergent over r minus 1. This implies S24. After 24 hours, we got r to the power n, right? So 1 comma 1. Remember the value of a is 1, right? So we got 1 comma 1, right, to the power 24 minus 1 divided by 1 comma 1 minus 1. Now remember, this answer you need to multiply it by 60. Why are you multiplying by 60? Because this is going to be in hours, right? So yeah, you need to multiply it by 60 because time, look at the time period. Remember, after 1 hour is going to be 1 times 60. After 2 hours is going to be 1 comma 1 times 60. After 3 hours is going to be 1 comma 1 squared times 60. So it's times 60 all the time. So we can see the value of A is actually 60 here. Right, so let's work this out. How many liters of water will be in the pool at the end of 24 hours? Right, so we're going to work this out on the calculator. Let me bring the 60 to the front. Right, 1.1 to the power 24 minus 1 divided by 1.1 and subtract 1. Right, and I've got an answer of 5309 comma 5309 comma how many liters, comma 84. Alright, so I hope you guys understood that. Next question. For a quadratic sequence, the following information is given. Term 2 minus term 1 is 4, term 3 minus term 2 is 7, and term 10 is 0. So remember to write it down, make a tree. Term 3, term 4, dot dot dot, and we got term 10. Now term 2 minus term 1, that's difference 1, right? Term 2 minus term 1 is 4. Term 3 minus term 2 is 7. Term 4 minus term 3, that's not given, alright? So 7 minus 4 is 3, that's difference 2. Now you know the three formulas that you use to find out the values. So what are the three formulas? 2a equals d2, right? 3a plus b equals d1, and then a plus b plus c is equal to term 1. Alright, so let's write it down. 2a is equal to d2. So 2a is equal to, what is difference 2? 3. Remember to take the first values here. First value there. Now we don't have the first value there, but we got term 10. So that's 3. A is equal to 3 over 2. 3a plus b is equal to difference 1. What is difference 1? 4. 3 times a is 3 over 2 times 3 is 9 over 2 plus b. Now you're taking 4 and minusing 4.5 because 9 over 2 is 4.5. So the value of b is minus half. And then the last one, term 10. Remember the last formula is a plus b plus c is equal to term 1. But we don't have term 1. What we do have now is the Tn formula. We have Tn formula, which is an squared plus bn, so minus half n, plus c. We don't have the value of c because we don't have term 1, so plus c. But we do have term 10. Remember, term 10 is equal to 0. Term 10 is 0. So we can say T10 is equal to 3 over 2 into 10 squared minus half into 10 plus c is equal to 0. And now we can solve for c. 3 over 2 times 10, 10 squared is 100, 100 times 1.5 is 150, minus half times 10 is 5, plus c is equal to 0. Therefore, the value of c is negative 145, because remember this is 45. So do we have the Tn formula? Yes, we do. We got 3 over 2n squared minus half n minus 145. That's it. So I hope you guys understood that. Right, so very nice question here. Remember the three formulas for a quadratic sequence, very important. Right, 1, 2 and 3. Now moving on to the next question. The first term of a convergent geometric series is equal to the common ratio. First term is equal to common ratio. So we know we have term 1, term 2, term 3. Term 1 is a, term 2 is ar, and that's ar squared. Now they're telling us term 1, remember common ratio is r, but now they're saying r is equal to a, because the first term is a and A is equal to the common ratio. Okay, trying to interpret this as we go along. Right, so we know R is equal to A, and what else they told us? And the sum to infinity is 1 over 5, so that's quite simple. Sum to infinity is equal to, what is the formula for sum to infinity? Is A over 1 minus R, and that's equal to 1 over 5. So now we know the value of what they want. Calculate the value of the first term of the series. So they want replace R with A over 1 minus A equals 1 over 5. Cross multiply. We have 5A equals 1 minus A. Bring the A over. We got 6A is equal to 1. Remember, 1 times 1 minus A is 1 minus A, 5A. So therefore, A is now equal to 1 over 6. I hope you guys understood that. So the first term, so therefore, term 1 is equal to 1 over 6. Right? Calculate the value of the first term in the series. So the first term in the series is 1 over 6. You can check that out. 1 over 6 divided by 1 minus 1 over 6 and see what's your answer. Let's check if the sum to infinity is, I'm just double checking my answer. 1 over 6 over 1 minus 1 over 6. So what's my answer? 1 over 5. So my answer is correct. Let's move on to the next question. Consider the geometric sequence given. X, Y, term 1, term 2, term 3 is a geometric sequence. What's the property of a geometric sequence? The property is term 3 over term 2 is equal to term 2 over term 1, which is called the common ratio. So what we can say is x plus y divided by y is equal to y over x. We have a problem here because we want to find the numerical value of x over y. We want to find the ratio. How are we going to find the ratio of x over y? Okay, we can split this up. So we got x over y plus y over y is equal to, see this y over x, I'm going to convert it to 1 over x over y, because the idea is to get x over y, alright? So I got x over y here and x over y here. Now I got plus 1. So x over y, let x over y be equal to k. So what do you have? You have k plus 1 equals 1 over k. Alright? So far we have that. Right, so we can multiply this entire equation by k. So what we have, k squared plus k, and we got a 1 on that side, so bring it over. Minus 1 is equal to 0. Use a quadratic formula. K is equal to minus b, so minus 1 plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. B squared is 1 minus 4ac, so plus 4 divided by 2a, so divided by 2. Now since x over y is positive, because x is positive, y is positive, so x over y must be positive. We're going to reject the negative solutions. Remember, k is x over y, so that's negative 1 plus root 5 over 2. I hope you guys understood that. Right, so we can solve this quadratic using a calculator, but you have to use a quadratic formula to show how you got it. So mod 5, 3, we have 1, 1 and negative 1. Okay, so see, we got negative 1 plus root 5 over 2 and negative 1 negative root 5 over 2. That's going to give me a negative answer. We don't want that, because the condition is x is greater than 0 and y is greater than 0. I hope you guys understood that. Moving on to the next question. After some research, this is on counting principles. After some research, you decide that the best option for your, because I saw repetition is allowed, right? So your online security is to have 2 unique passwords. So what we need 2 unique passwords before opening important documents. The first 10-digit password consists of 2 parts. So we have a 10-digit password. The first part is made up of 6 numbers, right? The numbers that can be used are numbers from 1 to 9. Because it's made up of 6 numbers, let's put 6 spaces here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. right? And how many unique 6-digit codes can be created if repetition is allowed? Repetition is allowed, so 9. I can use 9 in the second, 9 here, 9 here, 9 numbers here, 9 number here. So I've got 9 to the power 6. What's 9 to the power 6? A very large number, 9 to the power 6. That is 531441. Right, that's how many unique 6-digit codes can be created if repetition is allowed. That's your answer. Next one. The second part is a 4-digit code compiled from, now remember you used up the 6-digit, now you're working with the second 4 digits. The second part is a 4-digit code compiled from the digits 1 to 9. Repetition is not allowed. Code is compiled from the digits 1 to 9. Repetition is not allowed. How many even 10-digit passwords can be created? Whoa, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We want even numbers here, right? So the only possibilities are 2, 4, 6 and 8. Right, so these are the four possibilities here. Just say if I use one of the numbers like the number 2 here, right? If I use the number 2 here, they say repetition is not allowed, so I can't use the 2 again, okay? So from the 9 numbers I used up 1, so I've got 8, I've got 7 and I've got 6, right? But now that was just for a special case which is 2, okay? For the special case 2, now what about for the special case 4? You're going to have the same thing, and for the 6 you're going to have the same thing, and for the 8 you're going to have the same thing. So it's basically times 4 at the end, so it's like 1 times 4. So what's the answer? The answer is 6, 7, 8 and times 4. So what is 6, 7, 8 and 4? 6 times 7 times 8 times 4. I'm getting 1344. Now, how many even 10-digit passwords can be created by combining these two parts? So now combined, I need to take 9 to the power 6, right, and multiplied by 1344. So you're going to have, it's counting principle, so you need to multiply, times, you're multiplying here because it's a 10-digit password. 1344, a very large number, right? So let's see, 1000, so that's 714 million. What we have? 714 million 256 704. 704. Okay, that's the number of ways. Now let's look at this problem. The second 9-digit password has to be a number greater than, how many here? The second 9-digit password has to be a number greater than the second 9-digit password, right? Right, so we got 9 here. The first 10-digit password consists of 2 parts, right? And this is the second 9-digit okay. So the second password is basically 9 digits. So you need to make 9 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now let's see what's happening here now. It needs to be a number greater than 600,000 when the last digit being divisible by 3. Only the last digit is divisible by 3, so you need to take that restriction into account. How many 9-digit passwords are possible if you can use the digits from 1 to 9? No repetition is allowed. Okay, now we have multiple cases here now. Divisible by 3, so you can choose the number 3 here. Okay, so if you choose the number 3 here, we can choose options. Remember, it needs to be greater than 600 million. Sorry, 600,000. No, this is 600 million. That's gone into millions, right? Right, so we have 6, 7, 8, 9. So we can use 4 numbers here, right? Okay, let's just say you used... Okay, so I used up one number. I've got 9 numbers in total, right? I used up one of the numbers here, which is 3. So there's one option. And let me start here now. I used up one of the numbers here, right? But for a special case of 3, ending with 3, this is ending with 3, alright? So I can use numbers 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've got 4 options there. 6, 7, 8, 9. 4 options. So I chose one of the numbers here. I chose a number more than 6. So I can use the numbers 6, 7, 8, 9. Now in between here is the rest of the numbers that goes there. Remember, I used up 2 numbers, so I'm left with 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Right, so what's the answer here? 4 times 7 factorial so far. Now what happens when the number ends with a 6? Remember, what happens if the number ends with a 6? No more 3 now. This is ending with 3, alright? So this was ending with 3. So I need to work out that condition and that condition. So you only need to worry about the first and second condition because in between is just 7 factorial. So second condition, this was ending with 3. End 3. Now I'm going to do ending with 6. What happens if I end with a 6? I know I'm going to have 7 factorial in between. If I end with a 6, I can't start with a 6 here. We've got a problem. If I end with a 6, then I can't start with a 6 here because repetition is not allowed. Right, or if I end with a 9, I can't have a 9 in the front. So I only have one option there. Now you're going to have 3 options here. Why? Because I used up a 6. Right, so let's try to understand this. So I'm using up a 6 here, right? So one option. Remember the 7 factorial is just there in between because, and why we put 3 there? Because the numbers that I can choose here, is basically 7, 8, 9, and the same is the case if I choose the number 9. Okay, the same is the case if I choose the number 9 because I can only use 6, 7, 8. So this one should be times 2 here, right? So your answer is 3 times 7 factorial times 2. So what's your final answer? How many possible codes are possible? It's this one plus this one. So how many 9 digits passwords are possible if you can use the digits from 1 to 9, no repetition? So number of passwords is equal to 4 times 7 factorial plus 3 times 7 factorial times 2. Right, so now we're going to work this out. I'm going to take out 7 factorial. Okay, let's say 4 times 7 factorial plus 3 times 7 factorial times 2. So I've got 50,400. Right, nice question, guys. I hope you guys are understanding. And moving on to the next problem. Yeah, I think that should be my answer. They didn't ask for a probability. Moving on to the next question. You have 2 regular 6-sided dice. One is green and one is red. Regular 6-sided dice. So numbers, the numbers that you can get is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So basically the sample space is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? One is green and one is red. You throw both the dice at the same time and record the values. G is a value on the green dice, R is a value on the red dice. Once you have thrown the two dice, you place the values into the expression f of x. You basically put the numbers into f of x. So you're going to have G and R values. Then answer the question, what is the probability that the y-intercept, how do you find the y-intercept? What is the probability that the y-intercept for the graph of f will be less than negative 29? Whoa, what do we do here? Okay, I'm going to try and interpret this. What's y-intercept? Y-intercept is making x 0. F of 0 is 0 plus g is just negative gr. Now G and R are basically sample spaces. So I need this answer to be less than negative 29, the probability. Now when you roll two dice, what's the total number of outcomes? 6 times 6 is 36. So my total must be over 36. Total number of outcome when you roll two dice, 36. But what's the event? The event is the special one here. So the product of the green number times the product on the red number must be less than negative 29. Don't worry about that. That negative just represents, right? So how many numbers are less than negative 29? So let me check. We got negative 29 here. The product on the dice of the two numbers. Okay, I can get 6 times 6. 6 on the green. Just say if this is a green and that's a red. 6 times 6 is 36. Right? But I'm going to put a negative here. So we're going to have negative 36 there. Let me just put a negative in the front, because the entire thing is negative. Then I can have 5 times 6. 5 on the, that's 30. Let's put negative 30. Or I can have 6 times 5. That's negative 30. So the event is, are all these numbers less than negative 29? Yes, they are. Right, so the numbers are less than negative 29. Right, so negative 30. Can you have any other options like 4 times 5? 4 times 6 is 24. No, those numbers are greater than. So only these three options, I think. 1, 2, and 3. So what's the probability? Probability is, what's the number in the event? N of E is equal to 3. That's N of S. Number in the sample is 36. So 3 out of 36. Where my answer is 1 out of 12. I hope you guys understood that. Not bad, not bad. Moving on to the next question. What is the probability that the roots will be real, rational, and unequal? So at the moment, what are the roots? F of x equal to 0 is x plus g into x plus x minus r. Isn't it? It was x plus g, x minus r. X plus g, x minus r is equal to 0. I'm going to solve the roots. X is equal to negative g, or x is equal to r. So what are the roots? Roots are, remember these are natural numbers. G comma r are element of natural numbers, because the numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So g comma r is an element of natural numbers. No, is an element of natural numbers, but we can define it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or you can say g comma r is an element of the sample space, because we define the sample space as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember initially I defined that. Right, so r is So G and R are, remember, this is rational. These are real roots, right? So we can say roots are real. Roots are real, rational. This is negative and this is positive, and unequal. So what is a probability? What is the probability? What is the probability that the roots will be real, rational, and unequal? Probability is 100%. We're always getting, so probability is equal to 100%. Always the roots will always be, so it's certain. All right. Real, rational, and unequal. Are these real numbers? Yes. Are they rational? Yes. And they are unequal. Yes, they will always be unequal because this is negative, that's positive. Are they rational? Yes, they are rational. Rational because it can be written as a fraction. Are they real? Yes, they are real numbers because natural numbers are real numbers. I hope you guys are understanding. Let's move on. If h of x is equal to -1 x plus g all squared plus 4 minus r, then what is the probability that if you throw the two dice and place the values into h of x, that the roots will be non-real? That the roots will be non-real. What is the probability that if you throw the two dice and place the values into h of x, such that the h of x roots, what's non-real roots? Delta less than 0. So let's try to do that. So, but we need to open up h of x. H of x is now equal to -1. Open this up. That's x squared plus 2xg plus g squared plus 4 minus r is equal to 0. I'm going to write this out. -x squared. Expand this by removing the brackets. Minus 2xg minus g squared plus 4 minus r is equal to 0. Standard form, x squared plus 2gx. So let me write 2gx in standard form, plus g squared plus r minus 4 is equal to 0. So I can see my values of a, b, c. A, b, and c values. So we want delta non-real. We want the roots to be non-real. So you're going to say delta is equal to b squared minus 4ac. What's b squared? How many marks is this? Difficult question here. 3 marks. Okay. B squared minus 4ac. B squared is 4g squared minus 4. What's a? 1. And what is c? G squared plus r minus 4. B squared. Why did I put 4g? This is supposed to be 2g. Right, so we got 4g squared minus 4g squared minus r plus 4. So the g squares cancel out. 4g squared, 4g squared. So what do we have? 4 minus r. So what do we want? Right, so we can choose values of r. We know r is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Now let's see which values of r will give me non-real. Non-real is less than 0. Let me see if I did this right. B squared is 2g. (2xg plus g squared plus 4 minus r). My equations looks right. B squared is 4g, that's out, plus r minus 4, minus r plus 4, 4 minus r. If I substitute 1, I'm getting real roots. I don't want that. If I substitute 2, I'm getting real roots because delta is positive. If I substitute 3, I'm getting real root. If I substitute 4, I'm getting equal roots. If I substitute 5, then I'm getting 4 minus 5, which is negative 1. I want less than 0, so the only values that works is 5 and 6. So what do they want? Then what is the probability that if you throw the two dice and place the values into h of x, that the roots of h of x is equal to 0 will be non-real? Right, so the values that I can choose is just 2 out of 6. So the probability is 2 out of 6, which is equal to 1/3. I hope you guys understood that. Moving on to the next question, question 12. Below is, how many more questions do we have? Question 12. Okay, that it ends off here. Below is the front view of a rectangular storage facility built onto a wall representing by MO. Rectangular facility. That's a horizontal beam. There's a door here. That's a roof. Okay. Front view of a rectangular storage facility built onto a wall represented by MO in the diagram below. Okay, so that's a roof. Okay, so we're not looking at the entire structure, right? So, okay. Rectangular facility. Okay, that's a roof. Just looking at the front view. It's built onto a wall. Right, the roof is attached to the wall at M. Okay. With MO equal to 6 meters. MO is 6, so we have the y-intercept here, right? The gradient of the roof, Mn to Np, must have a ratio 2:5. Mn to Np. Mn to Np is what? 2:5. So we know the gradient. What is gradient? Now we need to interpret this. Gradient is, they're saying this is 2:5. Mn to Np. We know it's change in y over change in x. The change in y, they're telling us, is like 2x is to 5x. So it's just 2 over 5. Why we said we're putting it in like ratio form, 2x is to 5x, because they said it's in ratio, simplified ratio. So we don't really know whether the distance from M to N is 2 or is it 2x multiplied by a factor, right? So PR is a vertical beam, NP is a horizontal beam, OR represents the ground. Okay, that's fine. We don't know whether the distance from O to R is 5. Okay, we can't assume that. It's 5 times x. We don't know whether if x is 2 or whatever. So you can also have 4 over 10, which is still equates to 2 over 5. So there's only one thing that for certain is that we have the equation of this line. The equation of this line we have because 2 over 5x plus 6. Determine the equation of line MP that represents the roof. So 2 over 5x plus 6. So what's the equation? 2 over 5x plus 6. Right, that's the equation of MP. Moving on. Below is the rectangular storage facility under the roof MP. Under the roof MP, okay, shown in 3-dimensional form. Alright. If the depth of the rectangular storage facility is 2 meters shorter than the width is here. So remember the width, we're going to take rectangulars, so this is 5x, right? If the depth of the rectangular storage facility is 2 meters shorter than the width, so what's the width? Width is 5x, depth is 2 meters shorter than the width, so that's 5x minus 2, 2 meters shorter than the width. Then determine the length of the vertical beam. And find the length of the vertical beam here. Remember this is 2x, right? And this is 4x, right? Why is this 4x? No. If there's 2x, remember this this one over here was 6. So the distance from there to there will be 6 minus 2x. So the vertical beam is 6 minus 2x. Will have a maximum volume. Then determine the length of the vertical beam so that the rectangular storage facility will have a maximum volume when placed under the roof. Roof must be fixed at M and the ratio of Mn to Np must remain 2.5, 2:5. Okay, lovely, nice question. Right, so what's volume of a prism, a rectangular prism? Width times depth times vertical, so 5x into 6 minus 2x into 5x minus 2. Right, so we kind of get like, remember this is 6 minus 2x and that's also 6 minus 2x. So now quite a simple question. You can say 5x, open this up. So 6 times 5x is 30x, 6 times minus 2 is minus 12, minus 2 times 5, minus 2x times 5x, minus 10x squared, minus 2x times minus 2 is plus 4x. Right, so I hope you understood that. So 5x into 6 minus 2x into, let's just double check, that's 30x minus 12 minus 10x squared plus 4. Now, you know, I think we might have, yeah, so we got 34x inside here. So 5x, I'm going to write this in standard form, minus 10x squared plus 34x minus 12. Now I'm going to distribute the 5 inside, so I'm getting minus 50x cubed 5 times 34 plus 170x squared 12 times 5, 60 minus 60x. Now you're going to find dvdx and make it equal to 0. Minus 150x squared plus 170 times 2 is 340x minus 60 is equal to 0. We can divide this entire thing by 10. Can we divide by any other number? No, just divide by negative 10. So we got 15x squared minus 34x plus 6 is equal to 0. See if this here works out. We can't take 3 inside. Mode 5, 3. We got 15. We got minus 34 and we have a 6. Why is the answers such? Why are the answers like this? Then determine the length of the vertical beam. That was 5x, 5x. Change in y over change in x. Mn to np. 5x, 5x. 2 meters shorter than the width. And this was 6 minus 2x because 6 minus the 2x there. Alright. We have, maybe I made a mistake here. Let's see, 30x. All that was fine. 5 times negative 10 is negative 50. 5 times 34. 5 times mode 1. 5 times 34 is 170x. 5 times minus 12 is minus 60. Find the derivative, minus 150x squared plus 2 times 170 is 340 times 2, 340x minus 60. That's a derivative. If I go to mode 5, 3, substitute minus 150, substitute 340, and then substitute minus 60. Do we get the same answer? Yeah, I'm getting the same answer. Alright, so obviously the negative answer for x we're going to reject. Should we reject the negative answer? We have to check, because if the distance becomes negative then we have to reject. Yeah, negative answers. X has to be positive. the value of x has to be positive because the width is 5x. Yeah, so the value of x has to be positive, so mod, we have to use a quadratic formula here, right, to show the answer. So we're going to say x is equal to minus b, 34 plus minus the square root of b squared is negative 34 squared minus 4 AC 15 times 6 divided by 2 times 15, right? So x is equal to, we're going to have two answers here, mod 53, 15, negative 34 and positive 6. So I've got an answer which is 2,07 or 0,19. But what do they want? Or x equals 0,19. They want a maximum volume, alright? So we need to look at the shape of the graph. Both answers are giving me positive. Let me just say 17 over 15. Okay, I'm just trying to make sense of this, which answer it should be. Remember, this cubic function is negative, so it's a cubic function here, and you're trying to maximize maximum volume. Maximize will be, it will have a bigger x value. That's a maximum, this is a minimum, right? So it's going to have a bigger x value. So we say max when x is equal to max when x is equal to 2,07. Should that be right? Because what did they ask for? Determine the maximum volume when placed under the roof. Then determine the length of the vertical beam. What's the length of the vertical beam? It is 6 minus 2x. So length of vertical beam is equal to 6 minus 2x. So 6 minus 2 times 2,07, which is equal to mod 1, 6 minus 2.2 times 2.07, 93 out of 50, 93 over 50. You should write it in decimal points, 1.86. So the length of the vertical beam is 1,86 meters. I hope you guys understood that, right?